The name is Olufemi Awoyemi, MNI. I'm a chartered accountant by training, a financial analyst by profession. I worked in virtually most key areas of natural development for the accounting financial professional. I currently run a company called Proshare for the last 20 years or so. And we basically specialize on market intelligence, future trends, and information for decision making. At the National Institute, I came here sponsored by the Institute of Directors of Nigeria, having served for about 10 years in the institute, where the Chartered Institute of Directors helped to train you in terms of leadership aspirations. And it was important that the journey I had set out would not be complete if I did not interrogate the policy strategy frameworks that guide how Nigeria runs. I thought it was important that the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies offered a more comprehensive opportunity for that to be achieved. Well, because I came in with a clear idea to take up both the qualitative and quantitative experience as an opportunity to understand how Nigeria functions. I would consider it a wholesome experience from the discipline it provides for you in terms of the structure, the level of interactions and exchanges you have with multiple people, the conflicts that occur, both engineered and what's contrived, the conjugal atmosphere it does, but also the quality of people you get to have come in and deliver lectures, presentations, and the whole idea that you get it all from the intelligence, from the military, private sector, public sector. It offers around it. Then there's the travels, very stressful. Then there's the arrangement for overseas, one of which I felt that for executive programs, I felt the executive was missing in there. And I thought it was quite a learning curve for me. But it humbled one, even though we seek that it were to be better. Everything changed. Everything changed because you then understand that the unspoken message is to imbibe in you a sense of love for the country. To understand the difficulty in meeting most of those wants, to appreciate the room for frameworks. And because of the sincerity of the Director of Studies who guided us up to that, it was important to also admit where we failed. But then, like I say to people, it then imbibes in you the responsibility that it is for those of us who are privileged to be here to take on the task of committing ourselves to worrying about how to find a way out. And I think to that extent it has been humbling, but also suggests that one has been well prepared to take on such a body. Purpose over popularity. Value at last every other engagement. And most importantly, I very early on realized something that no matter how much I tried, I wasn't going to make it out alive. And as such, I was just going to make my time count. So every day is a project for me. At a very young age, I was privileged to read a book called My Early Years by Chief Olufemi Awoyemi. Told of the story of how he used to come from the village to go fetch water, log of woods and whatever, and would then still go back to go to classes and go to school. At their age, there was no vision of tomorrow. There was no internet where you could see what the future was. But it was the grit I didn't come from that background, but it was just a moon idea that how could he imagine that education was important to him? How could he imagine that that was the key? And how did he, very early age, understood the sense of discipline and responsibility that is required? And so I read that. My second is my parents. My father is a very hardworking man. So hardworking that we always made fun that we weren't going to be like him because he worked too hard. We didn't make much money. But they did something. They taught me sacrifice. Even though we weren't living in a very comfortable place, we were living what you call the face me and face you. And then it took us a whole while for me to graduate at university before we could live in a flat. But they sent me to a private school. It was just a misnomer. Every time I left from the house to go to school, it was a different world. I wasn't accepted so much in the private school. The people in the local areas also saw me as a sellout. But it taught me that I relied on those things by Allah to understand that I'm going to make it count for them. And the third most important were people I met with in the course of my job, people like Felicia Phillips, Sheguaino. But then I was privileged to have some siblings who were just incredible. The support system also helps, even where it is uncertain. I embrace conflict. I think the best relationships are those that emerge out of conflict. Because then we understand what we're all about here. We're not playing games here. You see, most of the times we try to get along and we never achieve anything. Sometimes you try to be part of the group. No, I'm not a part of the group. I'm going to stand out. Because I invest more time than every of you. I will sleep last and I will wake up first. But I may not expect everybody to do. But then I understood that I was going to be myself so I can test my limitations. So I can see that this attitude of mine may not be okay. Or this attitude of mine is okay. And so since I'm here, why don't I just find out? Why would I try to be somebody else that I'm not? And in that process, you find out that you get hurt, and some people will get hurt. But that is what toughens you. Because if you're going to lead, therefore, you must have the approbations of your own convictions. And you must be ready to make calculated decisions, knowing fully well that you understand the consequence of those actions. Because everything has consequences. Your intentions does not matter at that stage. Once you make a statement, there are consequences. And I think what I learned here, when you say worst and good moment, they were all part of the learning curve for me. So I never backed off from any of those things, and I would confront them. But at the end of the day, I can see that I'm here 2 days. I must have done something right. And it brought me back. I think sometimes people should understand the concept of political economy. In a political economy, it describes to you that the society is administered by the elites of the society, of the place, therefore, which means, therefore, that those who will be making the decisions are the elites. But then the elites are broken down into different categories: the political elite, the financial elite, and what you call the knowledge elite. Sometimes you have people who fall in those three categories. Most times you find that they stand on their own. But there's also the elitism you find in your military. That's why you see that the top of the best go to particular schools when they get to the top. In actual fact, the leadership recruitment criteria requires that a sovereign state must have a place where you filter the very best of the best, and you start them very early, or you therefore identify them and put them in there. From France to UK to the United States to even Rwanda there. And so when you say it's NIPSS an elite institution, it is non-appreciation of the concept of elitism to ask the question. It is called the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies for a reason. There's only one of it. By its very definition, that is elitist. By its very definition. What is not elitist, therefore, is when you subjugate the recruitment criteria to bring people in there. That is when you diminish its elitism. Because what then happens is that if anybody should therefore go out of NIPSS, there are minimum requirements you will therefore expect to find from them. You will not be able to question their character, their integrity, their value, their competence, their capability, and the fact that society will need for them to justify passing out through that school, to create what you call believability in an economy where there is crisis, or sometimes when you want to look into the future as an antidote to chaos. And so, to the question again, which should never arise, is that is NIPSS an elitist institution means that we have not been true to the recruitment, therefore. Otherwise, that question should never arise. It is actually an elitist institution. My first recommendation is to commit myself to serving. So I serve at my chapter level. I offer service at the national level, because you cannot make change from just rising. One of the few things you learned in NIPSS is you can't make changes by just talking about it. You get involved. Part of it is why I'm here today, to make sure we come in there and we show those coming after us that, so this is the example of what you should aspire to. Never be scared to be able to be true, because the nation invested in us to put people here. So it starts from 3 levels. Your recruitment of people into NIPSS, the quality of directing staff you have in NIPSS, and the quality of those who run the studies itself. If you do not pay attention and seek to operate at the highest level of excellence in those areas, every other thing is compromised and is reduced only to a badge. Because it's not the quality of the certificate, because nobody has been asked to show the certificate of being an MNI. What you show is when you see someone, you ask the question, is NIPSS an elitist? You just say, he must be an MNI. The real challenge is to be able to learn from unspoken words who an MNI is. So the best measurement for an elite school is for you to be able to recognize them without they having to introduce themselves. And then you will be able to recognize them through their quality, their character, their competence, their capability, and most importantly, their integrity. But so therefore, what would happen for you to then see the NIPSS institution go by is that when you find this interaction between past, present, like we've had today, which is very critical, we'll help ourselves that way. So on that note, I say thank you for having me, and I wish you very well. And what you're doing is part of the initiatives that we believe would help the National Institute. Thank you.